Okay everyone, thanks for joining us today, wherever you may be, attending from around the world. What I'd like to do over the next probably 30 to 40 minutes or so is give you an overview of IBM Endpoint Manager. We'll talk through the product and a number of areas and give you an overview of its capabilities and services managing a range of different devices. So what we'll do is we'll talk about some products, I guess, capabilities of the product and some of the clients that where the product's deployed, and we'll focus on three areas, namely patch management, software usage analysis, and mobile device management. If you have any questions along the way, I'll be looking out through the questions area within the webinar, so you can ask those, and I'll attempt to answer them during the course of the webinar. And also, if you've got any questions after, feel free to get in contact with us as well. So IBM Endpoint Manager offers a unified management platform in these four areas. So desktop and server administration. The product's heritage was around patch management. So we deliver patch management across a range of platforms. We provide inventory and software distribution. We also do OS deployment, upgrades and bare metal deployment, and we also have the ability to do remote control of workstations. We also do software asset management, so we're able to understand what software is used across your Windows, Linux and Unix endpoints, not only what software is deployed, but how often it's being used, so certainly to identify software and make sure it's being optimized in your environment. We do mobile device management and security, obviously around iOS and Android as the two key players in the mobile space. And we also do endpoint security and protection. So we not only understand what antivirus you have running and whether it's operating healthy on your endpoints, but we can also actually deploy our own antivirus, anti-malware product with Trend Micro, which is integrated into the product. And we also have literally thousands of checklists, things like dis-stigs, where someone's gone through and gone through those checklists and built fixlets to understand how compliant you are against those checklists. That's really a whole area itself, but certainly of interest to a lot of clients in that space. So Endpoint Manager consists of managing those endpoints, whether they be desktops, laptops, or servers. We also manage purpose-specific devices, so in some cases cash registers and vending machines, and we also have the ability to do mobile device management, as I mentioned. And then once you've deployed the product, you then have a range of different functions which you can turn on based on different licenses. So you can say start with patch management, deploy that across your environment, be patching Windows, Mac, and Linux and Unix systems, and then maybe you have the need to manage mobile devices, so you can turn that functionality on if you require. So you can turn on various components, much I guess analogous to pay TV. You can start with one channel, and then if you see the need for other areas, you can turn them on as you require. The product, its key benefits is that we have a common agent for those various endpoints, a very tiny agent that's deployed to your endpoints. It's done slightly different in the mobile realm with iOS. We have a unified console, so you can manage these range of different devices from a single console. We have a common infrastructure, which we'll talk about, and in most cases really a single server. We can scale literally up to 250,000 endpoints per server based on our architecture, which we'll describe in further detail in a moment. Now, I guess that some of the things you might ask is why IBM Endpoint Manager now? Obviously, as we mentioned, clients start with various modules and then gain various benefits depending on what modules they've deployed. So, Concord Hospital went from a lower first pass success rate, hunting down endpoints that had failed or weren't reporting back, spending a lot of time preparing patches. They are now achieving a 98% plus success rate, first pass success rate, patching their Microsoft and third-party patches. Hutchinson Builders, a client in Australia, they are now able to track down what software is deployed across their fleet. A banking client, Bendigo Bank in Australia, has saved a significant amount of power on their endpoints by making machines shut down when they need to run, and therefore saving a lot of power from those workstations. And IBM itself, we literally managing over 700,000 endpoints. We're doing that just with a few administrators, and we've enrolled over 100,000 mobile devices to IEM, and I guess we think we're certainly large numbers of rollouts of mobile phones within a 72-hour period, so certainly some scalability there in managing mobile phones. Now, how the product works is that you can start with the single server, which can IEM can run on Windows or Linux. It uses SQL, or on the Linux version it uses DB2. Now that can run as a virtual machine, but as you scale out to maybe over 700,000 endpoints, you may have a physical IEM server in your environment. And you'll see it says here BigFix, so that was the product's heritage. It's now called IBM Endpoint Manager. Now the product talks to our cloud service, and what it's doing is getting new advisories and various updates from our cloud service. It does that on a periodic basis, and it gets those down in terms of what we call fixlets. And the fixlet is what the endpoint and servers use to understand whether a certain fix is relevant or a certain condition is met. So Microsoft, when it releases its patch Tuesday, IBM will actually look at those fixes. It will retest them to make sure that they're working okay. We will then release a fixlet which our clients' IEM servers are subscribing to. Then all the endpoints, what they're doing is evaluating to see whether that fixlet is relevant to them, and then sends the result back to the server. So when you log on to the console, you're literally seeing at any one time what's the current state of your patching status based on the console, based in real time, and I'll show you that shortly as to what that looks like. Now you can see here we've got a range of different remote office types. So we certainly support all sorts of remote offices down to very low speeds. And we have clients that have IEM running in very low bandwidth conditions. And what we can do also is designate any endpoint at that remote location. It could be a server, or it could even be a PC that's running more often than others, to be a relay. And that relay is then able to aggregate content that comes down to the server, so that when a patch is ultimately delivered to workstations, it can come down only once. You'll see here that we have a single intelligent agent. But what we mean by that is the agent is doing more of the intelligence and understanding whether a fixlet is relevant and sending the result to the server, rather than the server doing lots of work and you needing a very large server infrastructure for your patching and compliance. So quite different in terms of how we architect our solution than others, and therefore the scalability that we're able to achieve. And you also see the agent is pegged at a 2% CPU utilization, so for all intensive purposes the user never sees that IEM is running on their machines, and it doesn't use any more than 2% utilization in how it functions to make sure it's continually compliant. So the endpoint is continually doing that scan, making sure that it's compliant, rather than a polling or a scheduled scan basis. Now with a relay, we can have that at those remote offices, but we can also have a relay configured in your DMZ, as you can see here. So the good thing with that is that you can also then manage those endpoints that are maybe not connected to your corporate VPN that often. They may be on the road and never come back into the office, so rather than come back in and require lots of patches or maybe bringing back a virus, you can make sure that those endpoints are still continually managed and tracked from IEM regardless of their location. Another feature we have within the product is we can also identify unmanaged assets. So we can scan for unmanaged assets that don't have an agent on them. So we can identify PCs that may be plugged into your remote offices, and also identify things like wireless hotspots and other things that basically have an IP address on that. So we can have scheduled scans that are configured to your remote offices. And what we call that is asset discovery within IEM. So what I'll do is go into more detail into 3 areas of the product: single patch management and a single console, talk about software usage analysis, and mobile device management. So the first area, patch management, what we'll describe here is that we can, with the console, we can see a range of different operating systems types, and I'll delve into a little bit more detail in terms of what a fixer is so you can understand what that looks like. So patch management, as we mentioned before, we cover a range of different operating system types, so very broad in terms of the types of endpoints that we manage. We have an intelligent agent, and therefore this means with our architecture we have a much more successful first pass success rate. So with our product we typically have in the high 90s, whereas other products can be a lot lower than that, and you spend a lot of time doing patching when you could otherwise be doing something else with your day. So I'll just show you a bit of an overview here, and then I'll walk through this actually on a live console. But what we'll do is we'll start with the patch management domain, and there's various functions within the product. We have that near real-time view of your patching environment. We see new content here, and we do a range of different application vendor patches and operating system patches. So what I'll do is I'll just jump out of that and just go into the console of the product. I'll make sure that's displayed on your screen. So you can see here, this is within the IBM Console, and we have a range of different functions that you can turn on, as we mentioned at the start. Things from mobile device management, patch management, and systems lifecycle, and also like endpoint protection, being antivirus and anti-malware. And you can see within my lab here, I have quite a large number of 3,568 patches required, and I have 210 critical patches needed. So this isn't something I've had to do a scan for and a report for. This is giving me the result in near real time. And you can see here on the right a range of different operating system types. So I can see the status of RHEL systems and Windows systems and others. I can also then just drill down onto those types just to see specifically the patching required for various OSs. So I can look at an AIX system, so a Unix system. I can look at a Mac system. So I think I've got about 1 Mac registered. So you can see here it's a little bit lower, which is typical of a lot of Macs. And I can also then drill into Windows systems as well. So in my case here, you can see close to 1,800 patches required within my lab for my Windows systems. You can see here I've got the ability to then drill down into say new recent content and various application vendors, and also into operating systems as well. So you can see here the various different operating systems in my lab. So you'll see here a total of 593. So that's in my lab I've got 593 patches which are required. And what I can do here is I can actually just click this button here and show non-relevant content. So what I'm going to show is that I guess IBM has tested and what Microsoft have released are close to 8,812 patches for Microsoft operating systems. So all the way back to NT4, we've got quite a few, but what's relevant for my lab, if I uncheck that button again, is 593 are relevant to my lab. So I can see in this case, this is the amount of work to do what I've got to do for my lab, and I can then go down over here and if I just move this column here, you can see the various patches, and you can see what's applicable to the computers in my lab. So in this case, a Microsoft.NET Framework update, the Windows XP 2003 Vista is relevant to 3 out of 48 endpoints. And I can then look into this fixlet in this case, and what we do is put a description against that, so it typically matches up with the advisory from the various operating system, various vendors. I then have some detail, which is the relevance language that the Endpoint Manager uses to then understand whether that fix is relevant to them, and then applicable computers. So you can then see at any one point in time which endpoints that fix is relevant to. Now, you can group these various fixlets into baselines, and you can then have various groups, either be manual or dynamic groups, so you can define various groups of endpoints in various ways. And then you can here, I guess, applying a fix as easy as going through these wizard here to deploy it. So I can select individual endpoints and apply that patch to those, or I can then have various dynamic properties, so I can do it based on Active Directory or various groups as well. And we have a range of flexibility in terms of what we announce to the users of what's happening, so I can have it apply on various times, have various behavior in terms of that fix being retried and reapplied. So the endpoint can be smart enough that even if a user was to, for instance, remove that patch in the future, and even if the endpoint is offline, if I've authorized that fixlet to be reapplied, the endpoint will go ahead and do that on the endpoint, which is quite intelligent. You can also see here I can apply that patch whether the user is logged on or not, and I can also display some messages to the user and give them a certain amount of time to apply that patch before ultimately it's actioned on that endpoint. Or if it's maybe more some software as well, I can make that more of an offer in some cases as well. And you'll see here we don't just do some operating system patches across a range of different types. We also do a range of other applications above the operating system stack, as we mentioned before. So we've got a range of different Adobe updates. We have updates for applications that fit on some Apple operating systems, and also Java, which is quite a difficult component that companies have to patch for. So you can see here that once an administrator is trained on the IBM Console, they can really do patch management across a range of different operating system types from this console. It can literally be tens of thousands of devices, a few devices up to hundreds of thousands of devices from this one console. So I'll just pause it just to make sure there are any questions there. So no questions in the polling list area, so I'll continue on. I'll just skip past this here because we've gone through that. So one thing I guess in summary around patching is that there was a IE Java 0-day exploit that was just a few weeks ago now. Our team in IBM were able to analyze that exploit, look at what needed to be required to remediate that. They were able to then test that within our labs, and we're able to release a fixlet within hours, so that our clients that were using IBM Endpoint Manager could apply that fixlet and essentially remediate the risk of that exploit within hours of that fixlet being released. So very powerful in terms of how we can apply not only patches but configuration settings which can resolve exploits in various application and OS vulnerabilities with IM. So the key benefits of this component and the architecture is that you get the real-time visibility with the product. So you can see the status of endpoints within the console and remediate those and get that information near real time. So the next area I'll focus on is software use analysis. So as I mentioned, this component of the product allows us to identify what software is not only deployed but how often your users are using this using the software on their endpoints. So we cover Windows servers and PCs. We cover Unix and Linux servers, and we do this by an incredibly large software publishing catalog. At last count, over 8,000 software publishers and 40,000 software products. We release this catalog on a periodic basis. It's typically every 2 to 3 months. And you can understand, obviously, we've talked about before, through Fixlets, we can update that catalog through a Fixlet as well. So what I'll do now is just, again, jump out of the presentation just to walk you through the software use analysis console. So here I am in the SUA console, and that's via a browser, so you can give this console access to this to particular staff in your environment. And as we mentioned before, you can see here the state of the catalog that I've got over close to 8,400 publishers and all the various software products that we detect. And within my lab, it's detected 191 software installations from 31 publishers. You can see here I've got some groups defined as well. You've got the ability to do a search on the catalog, so you can go through here and type in various vendor products and search on this catalog. Let's wait for that to come up. So you can see the large list that you can see here. Over 2,653. Now, what I can then do is explore inventory. So what I can do here is you can see within my lab a range of different software that's been detected. Now, what I've done is I've redefined my view so that I can more easily see the total runtime and the usage of that software over the last week, month, quarter, and year. So what's a good thing to do is to really sort on the most, I guess, software that's been run the most. So you can just toggle this view here and see what software is being used within my lab. As that refreshes, you can see here in this case, Microsoft software is deployed on 4 computers, and I'm scanning it on 4 endpoints. It's been run a total of 383 times, and you can see here the usage of that software over the last year. So what you can then do is then just drill down into that software, and then we can again drill down into that software and understand what's been run the most within my lab from a Microsoft software perspective. So if I expand it out, we can see various pieces of software from the Microsoft Office Proofing Kit, SQL. If I drill down to Office as well, you can see in this case it's been running on 2 computers at a total of 20 times. We can then drill down to that software even further. And if I expand that open again, you can see that Microsoft Office Professional Plus is running on those 2 computers. So I can again drill down even further, and you can then get the identification of the various components of Office. So obviously there are a range of different Office versions within your fleet. This would be detected as well. So what you can do as an administrator or a software auditor is understand how often people are using particular software. So maybe from an audit or compliance perspective, get that result very quickly. You can also identify software that isn't being used that often. So obviously people are requesting things like Microsoft Visio, but then ultimately you can see that they may have got it installed but haven't used it in the last year. We actually have clients that have a policy that they delete software from their staff's computer if it hasn't been used over a year. So you can see here that you've got the information at your fingertips rather than doing maybe more complex scanning or even doing a manual audit of your software. You can get that information very readily through the SUA console. Now what you can do is if I jump back to the main view, explore inventory, and I had my view that I defined, you can even schedule that report to be sent to you. I can have it as a PDF or a CSV, so I can have that email that report of software that I've got used sent to me on a periodic basis via email as well. Now within the product we have quite a good basic software compliance view, so like a contract usage data view. So I'll just jump to that so you can see that. So in this case here, I've got used an example of Microsoft Developer Kit and an IEM, just as an example. I've got that entitled to 515 computers. But you can see here that I've the license information in terms of I've got a license for one, and I've got in this case a license for 10 copies of Internet Explorer 9. So with this capability, I can do a pretty basic view in terms of how much software I'm entitled to versus how much I've got deployed across my fleet. So it's quite a good entry-level view in terms of your software compliance dashboard. We can also export this information into our Smart Cloud Control Desk product, which gives a more powerful view in terms of software compliance and managing all sorts of IT assets with our Smart Cloud Control Desk product. So we've just gone through software use analysis. So software usage analysis obviously is about optimizing your software usage and getting the returns on your software investment, but also making it far more easily at software audit time to get the information you need for an audit team. The last area I'll show is around mobile device management, talk through a bit about the background for MDM and also give you again a short demonstration of the console around MDM. So our mobile device management capability, we have support for Apple iOS, Google Android, support for Windows Phone, BlackBerry, and Symbian and Windows Phone. So we cover a range of different older mobile device management types, and we're really one of the only vendor that can manage not only PCs, Macs and servers, but also in mobile devices through our one platform. So the problem is obviously losing a phone is certainly a pain when that happens, but it's also, I guess, from a corporate perspective that loss of information that may fall into the wrong hands if you had a device which was unlocked and you've got access to corporate information, whether it be on a VPN or email and important contacts. So also the ability to understand where data is being backed up to and controlled with these devices as they become more and more powerful. Now, mobile device management from a range of vendors, it's all about setting policies, getting visibility, and enabling various device functions where we can from the corporate perspective. So our mobile device management product, we can set VPN and Wi-Fi configurations, we can deploy certificates to devices, we can also show on the user's device applications what they see on their device, and we can also enable on their device that maybe various services on their device like iCloud, in that case might be turned off, so you want to make sure that corporate data on the phone isn't backed up to public cloud services. So we can do that with our MDM product on those devices. So the MDM area is certainly one that's fast-paced, and there's lots of new features that are happening literally every quarter. Here's just an overview of some of the new functionality in our MDM product. Things like integration with enterprise divide container technology, so ability to separate corporate from personal data on your devices. We can manage those containers through MDM. Support for BlackBerry Enterprise Server, enhanced security in terms of FIPS 140 encryption, and also enabling a range of different Samsung safe APIs, so they expand the capability of what you can do on Android devices when they're Samsung devices. Also, we can, as we mentioned, manage and deploy divide containers with our console. So if you've got corporate devices that are using native functions, you want to manage them with MDM, but you may have some users that don't want to be managed at all, but they want to have access to corporate resources like email. So what you can do is have it so that the user, their personal information is separated from their corporate information through enterprise divide. And again, like other functionality and other endpoints, we can also manage those containers through IEM as well. So the approach for mobile device management is through a number of different ways. So through Apple iOS, we do that through Apple's MDM APIs, and all vendors have to do it via the same mechanism with iOS. Now with Android and Windows Phone, we do that via an agent. So the agent is talking back to our Endpoint Manager server, much like an agent on a PC or a server. So for instance, on our Android agent, it's very much like our Linux agent. The development team were able to use around 70% of the same code with Android, but obviously it's optimized for an Android platform. And we also do access and configuration of devices that may be managed through ActiveSync or Lotus Traveler as well. So from an architecture perspective, as you can see here, you'll have that single IEM server within your environment. You can have this management extender that sits in your DMZ, and you're then able to manage those devices that talk through to Apple's services or an optional Google Cloud messaging service. So you're able to manage them as fully managed devices or devices that are managed through ActiveSync as well. Another area I'll just touch on before we show the console is that we can, through IEM, publish applications that are being developed in IBM Worklight. So Worklight is the ability to develop applications once for a range of platforms, but still have that great user experience that you expect on each platform. It also has a nice encrypted cache, so it's like a safety deposit box on your device. And you can see here, it's using a single framework to develop those applications across all these different OS types. What we can then do is, once your application has been developed in Worklight, we can publish those through to what the user sees on their device is this like a corporate app store on their device. So what I'll do is just show you through to the console with MDM. So you can see here, I can see the range of different mobile devices within my environment. I've got a range of different types, whether they be managed through Microsoft Exchange, iOS, Android, or Divide. We have a health checks that gives us the ability to see how our MDM product is functioning. We can see here that it's saying that there's some of the iOS devices, the apps on those need to be updated, and also on the Android agents that they need to have admin privileges, so it's able to warn us of those. And if I were able to go to the single device view, I can then see all the range of different mobile devices within my fleet. So I can then drill down onto my devices. I can see I've got an Android device and an iPad with the Divide container on it, and also it's natively managed as well. So if I then drill down into my device, you can see it's got information on when that device is last reported. It's got a capability with 3G or 4G capability. I've got then the capability to do a range of different commands on that device. I can do a fully wipe of that device. I can also do a selective wipe, which is really removing the corporate component of that device. So maybe the email I've configured with that configuration, that profile, or some apps that are recommended to that device as well. And I can also send a message to the user's device as well. You can see here I've got information in terms of what profiles are stored on that iOS device, what security information, what policies might be applied. and what applications are installed on that iOS device as well. So you can see that not only from an individual device perspective, but as I mentioned, you can see that from all the devices within your fleet as well. So if I was just to go to application management, you can see all the range of different applications which are installed across all the devices within our corporate environment. In this case, it's our lab environment with a range of different iOS and Android types. What you can then do is import an application from various app stores. You can import them individual files if this is a developed application, or as we mentioned, we can import them directly from IBM Worklight through to your devices as well. So then once you've got those apps imported, you then got the ability to recommend those apps to the device or do a prompted install. Ultimately, the user on an iOS device has to accept that an app is about to be installed, but you can prompt that to that device as well. And also there's a range of different security policies that you can apply to iOS and Android. So in this case here you can see a range of different policy types that we can apply, and also you can see in this case I was actually testing the ability on iOS 7 to disable the control center if your device is locked. So we can do that. We've also had clients that have wanted to actually disable the camera at particular times of the day. Also you can install the device certificate on those devices as well. So I was looking at the device camera policy and then just look at that, some of those settings. You can see here that this checkbox for allowing use of camera has been turned off. You can see the range of other different policy settings that you can configure on iOS. So as iOS releases come out and there's new functionality, IBM had same-day support for iOS 6 and 7, and will continue in the future in terms of as new functionality comes out to manage those devices and types. So from the mobile device management perspective, you can certainly see that we have the visibility and management of those devices, and we will certainly continue to support all the functionality that will come out from those vendors and extensions to various platforms such as Samsung Safe and Knox into the future, into various mobile device management capability with our MDM component of IBM Endpoint Manager. So just the last couple of slides. One is that around IBM's experience in using this product. We have literally over 10 million endpoints under management with our product with clients of a ranges of different sizes and industries. But a case in point with IBM that we manage over 700,000 endpoints, and we went from an older technology to BigFix, and the benefits have been quite dramatic in terms of the patching availability coming out much more rapidly. Our compliance increased to 98% within 48 hours, which considering a fleet of our size is quite significant. And we really do this with only just a few administrators for such a large numbers of endpoints. And there's actually a reference case study of this on the internet if you're after more details. And also from clients, these are some clients that spoke at our Pulse conference this year from a range of different types, and you can see that the benefits, as we mentioned before, in terms of doing more with less, managing larger numbers of devices and getting that visibility in near real time, and also doing that with far less server infrastructure than they would otherwise need with competing solutions. So in summary, IBM Endpoint Manager enables unified management of all devices, whether it be PCs, servers, Apple Macs, and mobile devices. We have the real-time and endpoint security and compliance capability, so you can see not only your patching status but your compliance status in near real time. And what this ultimately means is that you save time and effort and spend a lot less time doing patching and compliance and controlling devices. There's power savings that you can obtain within weeks, and you can also optimize your software and hardware assets. So certainly some key benefits by implementing the product. Now the product, you can download it from IBM. There's a trial for 30 days. Also on my blog, I've got links to how you can install the product literally within 15 minutes. But if you need further information in terms of how to install the product or getting access to trial licenses longer than 30 days, feel free to reach out to myself or contacts. You'll get an email after this webinar, so feel free to reach out to us if you need further information. So with that, I'd like to thank you for attending today. I hope you found it valuable. I'll just check the questions areas. So we just had one question about whether we support Red Hat Linux, and we do. So we support, at last count, over 70 different operating system types with IEM, so quite a large range of OS types. So I think I've got that question answered. So that's all we have from other questions. So with that, I'd like to say thanks very much for your time, and I hope you found it valuable. Thank you very much.